We will enhance our battle groups in the eastern part of the alliance up to brigade levels. We will transform the NATO response force and increase the number of our high readiness forces to well over 300,000.
That is NATO's Secretary General yesterday announcing what he calls the biggest overhaul in the alliance's defenses since the Cold War. His announcement came just hours ahead of a three-day NATO summit in Madrid, Spain. Today, President Biden on his way there as we speak. Meanwhile, President Biden plans to announce an increase of American troops in Poland while he's in Europe for that NATO summit. According to several officials, the decision could affect the number of troops deployed in the Baltic states of Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. The president may also announce the expansion of the U.S. Navy's presence in Spain by adding 2 ships over the next few years. Joining us now, former spokesperson for the U.S. mission to the United Nations, Hagar Chemali. She also worked at the National Security Council and the Treasury Department. And senior fellow at the Atlantic Council, Michael Bosserque. He is a former spokesperson for the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. Good morning to you both. It's great to see you. Michael, let me begin with you and go back to what we were talking about a moment ago. This missile attack on a shopping mall in central Ukraine. The Russians saying, we thought there was a weapons depot there. There was a weapons depot there. The mall was closed. That's flatly untrue. We know of 18 deaths so far and likely many more. What does this signal to you that the fight that has been in the east for so many months now appears to be coming back to places like Kyiv and into this mall?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I was in Ukraine for the past 3 months, and I'm about to go back there via Madrid. This is horrible, horrible, horrible. You know, it makes you wonder, where are the red lines? How far is Russia going to be allowed to go to, in terms of inflicting this horrible civilian toll? This is the second time they've gone after a shopping center of that size. I was at the first one in Kyiv, which was bombed in March. And I've seen destruction in places like Chernihiv. I think what the Russians need to understand is, number one, no one believes them when they say there was a depot or something there. And number two is the West has to be very, very clear about what the red lines are. Because what is it, a shopping center? What is it going to be tomorrow? Another maternity hospital? It's great to see what NATO is doing, increasing its forces and so on, but I hate to say it's a little bit too late, and at least that's how a lot of Ukrainians feel. One more quick thing. The only way this will stop, these indiscriminate bombings on the shopping centers, maternity hospitals, if Ukraine gets what it's begging for, the ability to close its skies to those long-range Russian missiles.
And what would that mean exactly, Hagar? We've talked about no-fly zones, why those are a non-starter for the United States, at least to participate in, but maybe they could help the Ukraine get that. And what does it mean to draw a red line? If you say, Vladimir Putin, if you target another mall, we're going to do X, and he targets the mall, what's the world prepared to do?
Right. The only red line-ish so far that we've heard of is with regards to use of chemical weapons against Ukrainian civilians. And the problem right now that you're facing, that Michael has pointed out, and that was the first thing I thought of when I saw this attack on the mall, is that Russia is sending a message, right? This is during the G7. This is during the NATO summit. Right. This is during an increase in military aid to Ukraine, though not fast enough. And he's sending a message that we can terrorize whomever we want, whenever we want, inside Ukraine, and we're not going to hesitate to do it. And the reason they behave that way is because they know that nobody wants to militarily engage Russia except for Ukraine's people and military. Mm-hmm. And I'm not trying to say that we should all just jump into a World War III with Russia now, but the reality of the situation is that there is no amount of sanctions, there is no amount of unity among the allies that will stop this kind of behavior. The language dictators understand, and I saw this from Syria, from handling Syria, and it is out of the same playbook. The only language they understand is the threat of military force. So if we're not going to do it, we need to let Ukraine be able to close the skies as quickly as possible. And we have to do that before people get compassion fatigue, before we run out of money to support Ukraine. And the White House sees that. You see them beefing that up, but it's got to be as fast as possible.
And we've heard Katty Kay, President Zelensky, just on that point saying, please don't ignore us now. We know you have other problems in your countries, but we need you now. We need you to stay with us on this. And it appears, through the rhetoric anyway, at the G7 summit and now at NATO, that the world is thinking that way in terms of supporting Ukraine.
Yeah, Willie, that's something that Ukrainian officials apparently were concerned about right in the very first days of the war. They were aware of the possibility that this war could go on for a long time and that the West would start to lose attention. Michael, you've spent a lot of time in Ukraine. I am sure that it is something that Ukrainians are watching. What's Ukrainians' sense of how united the West really is in its determination to keep up its support at current levels for Ukraine, because it's going to have to be at current levels for Ukraine if Ukraine is going to carry on tackling Russia and beating Russia back in the east of the country for the next 4 months, right through the winter even potentially? Do they think the unity and the commitment is there?
Great question. The problem is I think we have huge gaps that you could drive a truck through when it comes to unity and sanctions. What I mean by that is, for example, Turkey is on a little bit on its own path. It's starving, for example, for Russian tourists. Israel, by the way, now is not allowing Ukrainians without visas into the country, even those that want to flee. I think we have to get to that point where if you're a Russian oligarch or anybody in Mr. Putin's circle, the only place you can go to vacation is perhaps Pyongyang or those illegally built Chinese islands in the South China Sea. The problem is they can go to a lot of the Gulf states, places like that. So I think we need to pull them on board as well, because that is something they will understand, is that isolation. By the way, I was at the Ukrainian permanent mission the other day, and, you know, we talk about this Western unity and diplomatic isolation. Well, they told me in the General Assembly in votes regarding Russia still gets 100+ votes. What kind of diplomatic isolation is that?